Hello, everyone. Here's your weather hazard briefing for Friday, January 10th. We've got snow and some wind on our way later on today, and this will continue into tomorrow. The bulk of this really occurs later on tonight and tomorrow, especially over the eastern part of our area. There will be those strong winds. Now, above pass level, that's really where we're going to see any really major impacts from blowing and drifting conditions. Down low, a lot less of an impact. Strong crosswinds for the Magic Valley and South Hills, Albion Mountains. And beyond tomorrow, just some lingering light snow for Sunday and Monday before we return back to high pressure dominating our weather pattern. We do have another round of fog and low cloud cover out there this morning. Now, a lot of it's kind of not in the southern part of the Magic Valley, a little bit of wind keeping it at bay there, but you can see once you get up towards Shoshone on up through the rest of the Snake Plain, a few spots outside of that with that low cloudiness and fog, and some of that fog is still dense. We'll kind of see the shifting as this system comes in later on today. The stratus pushing back up towards the upper end, the northern end of the Snake Plain into the eastern highlands. Our weather risk outlook, we do have some areas outlined here over the next couple of days. Generally, where we have in the central mountains, the minor impacts, that's where the population centers will be. You get way up into the mountains, moderate to major impacts from blowing and drifting snow. For the rest of the area, it's a combination. In some cases, for the Snake Plain, it's more of the dense freezing fog this morning in spots. For the Magic Valley, we've got that, and we have snow and strong winds returning later on. The same for the South Hills. For the southeast highlands, the eastern highlands, it's more of, at least for now, the dense freezing fog in a few spots, but that switches over to the snow and wind later on this evening into the overnight hours. There you see on Sunday, not a lot of snow or not a lot of impacts from any lingering light snow showers or flurries, and even less on Monday. So how are things progressing through the rest of the day? The particular model that we're looking at, this depiction, it likes to kind of think, well, it's snowing where the stratus deck is. Now, we can't rule out some light flurries out of that, but this is more of indicative where the stratus deck is. The snow shower activity or the snow activity coming in from the north and west, maybe a little bit mid to late morning up around Island Park, but you'll see the bulk of it moving in from Oregon into western and eventually central Idaho as we go into this afternoon. A big chunk of that comes this evening, quickly shifting into areas across and away from the Snake Plain, the South Hills, Albion Mountains, Southeast Highlands, Eastern Highlands. Still a decent amount of lingering snow, and then we've got some upslope snow along the bench areas initially from Burley all the way up through Ashton. That trend somewhat dies out overnight, although you'll see a little bit of enhancement in the middle of the night, just after midnight really, from around Island Park down through American Falls and Pocatello. That shifts on to the south and to the east, and we get another little surge later on in the morning towards sunrise coming in from the north. That eventually shifts into the Magic Valley. Not necessarily a convergence event, just a little bit of push of moisture coming in. But you can see some lingering snow showers elsewhere in northwest flow, especially over the higher elevations as we go through the rest of the day tomorrow. So back to the forecast. Temperatures for today, with that in place, even with that system coming through, we're going to see temperatures staying in the 20s where we keep the inversion going strong for today. Ahead of that, elsewhere we mix out, we'll get into some 30s and low 40s. And that's why we're thinking maybe for portions of this Magic Valley, especially along and south of the Snake River into the South Hills, anything that falls initially, it may just be sprinkles or a little bit of a rain-snow mix, some flurries before things switch over to snow later on this evening. We're going to kind of step through this a little more in detail with this event. So this is for this afternoon. You don't see a lot of snow falling except for some light snow in the central mountains. And the wind really hasn't started either, although some gusts up around Galena Summit in excess of 20 miles an hour, even in excess of 30 miles an hour. And the same down towards Sweetser Summit. As we go in to the north, not anything going on in the southeast corner. We will talk about that more for the rest of this event. But you'll start to see some light snow. Again, some of this may be just a little bit of flurry activity under the stratus deck, but some light snow moving into the central mountains. Winds strongest in southwest Montana, but you'll see some gusts again in the central mountains, especially way up there in excess of 30 miles an hour as we go through the afternoon. Going into this evening, we see some light snow shifting into the Magic Valley and the Snake Plain. Some snow picking up across the Central Mountains, especially north of Galena Summit and then the Sawtooths, and also some of the highest peaks south of the Snake Plain and Magic Valley. This is when the wind starts to pick up. We're going to see some gusts over 40 miles an hour and a few spots over 50 miles per hour. And you'll notice as we go through this event, that's where the strongest winds are going to be down in the Magic Valley, the South Hills and Albion Mountains, and in the Central Mountains, well above 9,000 feet. So again, this is for this evening. Shifting into the southeast corner, that's when the snow moves into the southeast corner. Winds do pick up. They really don't get terribly strong once you get out of the Snake Plain and the South Hills, but still some gusts in excess of 30 miles per hour at times, especially in higher elevations. Like I said, just some light snow, some a little bit more snowfall in the higher elevations, the Bear River Range. Also starting to see some enhancement in the big holes, including Swan Valley and Pine Creek Pass. We go farther north, you can see the snow continue to pick up in the Tetons, wrapping back towards Island Park, and see some enhanced snow in the higher elevations, especially for Limhi County, where we could see a few spots in excess of 4 inches during this particular period. That might be a little much, but it's a very quick-hitting system, and we're expecting a lot of snow in some areas in that short amount of time. But you see the winds picking up here as well. Some of those highest elevation gusts over 40 miles per hour in the Central Mountains, and certainly once you get into southwestern Montana. Going into the overnight hours, that's when the snow starts to dwindle, but the winds pick up down here. And some of these gusts, 45, 50 miles per hour, even above, like if you're going way up on top of Pomerelle, some of these gusts tonight and tomorrow, probably over 60 miles per hour. And again, gusts over 50, highest elevations of the Central Mountains. This is where things get a little tricky. It's going to be more of a wind event in the lower elevations, but there may be a brief period where we get a little bit blowing snow in the lower elevations, but certainly there's going to be blowing and drifting impacts well above pass level. So at this point, it's really if you're heading up into the backcountry or if you're going to go skiing out in some of the highest elevations of our area. Heading into the southeast corner overnight, that's when the snow really starts to pick up, 2 to 4 inches in some areas, maybe a little bit more in the higher elevations. You'll see the strongest winds west of Pocatello, west of I-15. Again, those gusts over 45. Farther east into the eastern highlands, just some gusts 25, 35 miles per hour, it looks like, at this point overnight. But that's still enough for some blowing and drifting snow. And heading farther north over for the overnight hours, there are those gusts over 45 in the Central Mountains and up into southwest Montana, also up along the Montana divide, some gusts 30 to 40 miles per hour. But the snow amounts really aren't heavy until you get into the Tetons, the big holes, western Wyoming, and again up across around Lost Trail Pass, moving into Beaverhead County. Going into tomorrow morning, this is after sunrise. Really not a lot going on snow-wise, but the winds continue, and there's still those gusts, 45, 55 miles per hour. And once again, if you're heading up really high top of Pomerelle, places like that, gusts over 60 potentially for tomorrow morning. Elsewhere, gusts 25 to 35, maybe hitting 40. So certainly if there's not any blowing snow, just some strong crosswinds, especially if you're going in a north-south direction for tonight and tomorrow morning. Snow starting to taper off in the southeast corner, but could still pick up an inch or two in some of the higher elevations. And again, some of those gusts 20 to 30 miles per hour still for tomorrow morning. And the trend continues with lighter snow to the north, really kind of shifting up into the Big Sky area for tomorrow morning, but still some of those stronger gusts. And then tomorrow afternoon, still just some lingering spotty snow in the highlands. Those wind gusts really start to come down, but still over 35 miles per hour in a few spots. Southeast corner, the same thing, similar trends once you head up into the northern part of our area and into southwest Montana. Still a few of those gusts up around Bora, over 40 miles per hour tomorrow afternoon. So a very raw, windy, not necessarily the best day if you're wanting some nicer weather to go on the mountain. Some people love this type of weather to go up in the backcountry. Just depends on the type of person you are this time of year. So heading to tomorrow, temperatures where we can mix out. We're going to be near freezing elsewhere in the single digits and teens still. But tomorrow afternoon, it's an interesting situation where we've had the inversion. We're going to warm up to near 30. Where we've been warmer, it's going to cool back down to around 35 degrees. So even with temperatures around 35 or 36 tomorrow, we should be looking at snow across the area. Sunday, we start to cool off again back into the teens and 20s in the higher elevations, and where the inversion starts to hold elsewhere, closer to the freezing mark, but overnight lows in some areas. Where it stays warm near closer to 20, where we get some cold temperatures going about 5 above to 5 below zero. Even cooler for Monday, similar trend with high pressure settling in, and not much of a difference on Tuesday. Once again, the next 24 to 36 hours, we've got some snow and wind coming our way. Check for the latest forecast. Check your road conditions. Check in the backcountry to see how things are going to be going for you. Otherwise, have a great Friday. Have a great weekend, and stay safe out there, everyone.